Hello and welcome to a new session on the topic ArchiMate, Architecture Modeling Standard, and aligns well with the TOGAF Architecture Development Method ADM. Today's discussion we continue where we left off with the business domain. Previously we have showed the motivation layer, the strategy layer, and started with the business layer. However, as we have said in the previous session, that there are so many elements and annotations in the business domain that cannot be covered in one session. In today's discussion, we pick up where we left off. So this diagram is where we left off the last time. We have shown the actors, the roles, we have shown the business functions, business processes, we have shown business events, and finally we have shown also a collaboration of two roles to bring together business value to our customer. We will start with a new view, business layer. In today's session we are going to model specifically one process, so we will call it process view recommender systems. So this relates to the business layer here where browse catalog, so we can give personalized recommendations to the customer based on their browsing history. If we review that from the motivation layer, we have already seen that in the strategy layer we have already modeled that in the value stream and call to action and action, course of action, and this was the part where add a recommender system. So we said this will require AI capabilities and different resources such as GPUs, AI software licenses, human resources, resource, and so on and so forth. Now we have a little bit of context around the system. So we start again with our actor. Here is our customer, and then we have a business object. This business object is purchase history. So the purchase history, however it is technically modeled, we are interested here in the business modeling of the recommender system from a perspective, a high-level perspective that doesn't require deep technical understanding of how recommender systems really are implemented on the technical level. And this is also desired that we keep the discussion at a certain abstraction of the technical details. So we have the purchase history, and then we have a business service. This business service is the recommender system. Recommender system service, we can call it recommender service. And then what we can also include here in the diagram is the product. This is a feature or a product that we are including. So this product is a recommender system product. This is one of the product owners' roadmap that says we want to include recommender systems as one of our offering to our customers, and see how this now comes together. So the customer triggers the recommender service, but not directly. So there is the catalog service product catalog service. This is where the customer can make it a little bit bigger so that it fits on the screen. Product catalog service. This one as well. So this is where the entry point for our system, and then the product catalog service will communicate with the recommender service. The recommender service will access the purchase history, and these together they make up the recommender system. So now we have a basic skeleton where we can start mapping the relations and the connectors. Again, with the magic connector, what is the customer relation to the product service? Basically, he is served by, he uses this service. It could be also triggers. I would stick to the triggers relation to keep the direction of the arrows in the flow that is easily to interpret from a visual perspective, that the customer triggers or accesses the product catalog service. The product catalog service subsequently will trigger the recommender service. It could even more suitable to say it is served by the recommender system. However, the flow or the direction of the arrow will be in the opposite direction. Let's try that, but keep in mind that the flow is visually interpreted in the opposite direction. So this is how it would look like, but this means according to the ArchiMate standard that it is served by or uses the services of the recommender service. Of course, in the context of non-technical stakeholders that are not quite that familiar with the ArchiMate standard, this would be quite confusing to say that the data is flowing from recommender service to product catalog service. This would be the correct interpretation. However, this is subject to misunderstanding and misinterpretation that is usually better to avoid. So the relationship from the recommender service to the purchase history object, this is a business object, it is interpreted as a data collection, and this would be accesses. This is the one for access relation. So it's modeled like this. So that means the recommender service will access the purchase history. Now we'll make this one bigger. This is the recommender system product. This is the wrapper for our system. And now this would be the composition relationship. So the recommender system product is composed of the recommender service and the purchase history. We could even debate that the purchase history belongs to the customer master data or the orders service. For the sake of simplicity, let's keep it related to the recommender system, unless we are modeling also the customer profile service. Then it would make more sense to have the purchase history in that service or product. One of the interesting annotations in the business domain is the representation layer. So the representation object. So a representation object looks like this. This is a representation, and this here, it means could be a JSON, gRPC, GraphQL. It could be a specific XML standard or a specific format that is required for recommendations. It could include pagination. This means that the recommendations themselves that are the output of the recommender system will be communicated according to this representation. format or presentation. That means this is a standard presentation, so that if we are modeling interoperability between different systems, if we're making this recommender system product universal, then this is the representation that will be given as an output to the customers. How do we map these presentations in our story here? Make our recommender system slightly bigger, send it backwards, and make this right here. Now what we need to do is to map the relations once again. So this is an association, and then this is again the service. One more way to map it, instead of mapping it to the recommender service, we can also map it to the relationship. So this is visually easier to understand and interpret. So the recommender service gives its results in the recommendations format to the product catalog service. One of the annotations that we have not covered so far is the interface. This is also again one of the ways to communicate between systems. We could make this interface here. So a business interface. So assuming in our use case we are trying to make the recommender system a universal product that could be used by third parties, by other services. So in this case we need a business interface, and let's call it the recommender APIs. This recommender APIs quite confused now because this is supposed to be a composition. This is assigned to API is assigned to, this is assigned to with the dotted circle on the one end of the API and the recommender services system service. This assigned to now means that the recommenders APIs, they are the offering, the access point of the recommender service. We could even make that even a little bit more aligned with the diagram. So here we are. We have now a product recommender system that is composed of the recommender service, accesses the purchase history, offers the recommender APIs, gives its format to the in the recommendations format, and then this is used by the product catalog service and the customer. It would even make more sense in that case to have the service relation, the product catalog service access the recommender APIs instead of accessing the recommender service directly. So here we are. Now this is more aligned with how a recommender system could be modeled, one of the ways, and it is now a complete cycle or a flow that represents a customer browsing a catalog, and the catalog is being enriched with recommendations using a recommender API that provides a standardized format based on a recommender service that accesses a purchase history. So far we have covered the actor, the role, the collaboration, the interface, the process, the function, this one is the interaction. So this could be also interesting to model that. So business interaction, this now is a combination of two active behaviors. So this is a realizes. Actually, I want to make it the other way around. A business interaction is realized by the Pro Catalog service. Actually, the business interaction realizes the Pro Catalog service and realizes the recommender service. So basically the idea is that this business interaction is a realization relationship between personalized browse catalog. So this is the combination of the recommender and the catalog service. Combined together, they give us the personalized browse catalog interaction. One of the things that I would have expected here to be different is that this relationship is realization now according to the magic connector. However, I would have expected it to be more of a composition, but I believe this is also the same interpretation, that the personalized browse catalog realizes these two services together. And we continue with the annotations. We have covered the interaction, we have covered the events, we have covered the services, the business objects, and this is the contract. So this contract we can also understand as a form of a representation that is more in a partnership context or a legal context relevant. This contract represents that the communication between two systems or subsystems is to be done using this form of contractual agreement. In this use case, let's just see how this object looks like. This is how a contract looks like. However, I wouldn't very much fit it in this use case. It would fit in other contexts where we are mapping perhaps in the previous example. We have seen here that there is the processing that is being triggered with the warehouse and the delivery partner. Perhaps here we could also augment it with a contractual relationship. This contractual relationship, the delivery policy or police, and this one is actually the connector between the delivery partner. Where are our delivery partners? Right here. So we have here the warehouse, the access is delivery policy, and create it, update it, and the delivery partner who accesses this contract a delivery policy or police and executes it. So this is where I would say this is a contractual agreement or contractual partnership between the warehouse and the delivery partner. To continue with our objects annotations, we have seen the representation and the product. So this concludes the available set of annotations available in the business domain. With this video, we have covered the business domain layer of the ArchiMate architecture modeling standard, and this aligns to the business architecture modeling stage or step of the architecture development method ADM of the TOGAF standard. I hope that you find this video useful and see you in future sessions. Thank you.